I think in national parks, a very noticeable fact is that tigers have gotten used to us. They come out more than they used to 30 years ago when they were really elusive. And now, if you go to a national park, if you have a 5 safari trip, you can sight them. That's good. That's good that, they're getting used to us. That's fine. But my issue is, if you notice, look at the distance between the tigress and the jeep. Not the second one. There's a first one here. It's very less, and it's not dangerous. It's not dangerous yet, but it's unsafe, especially for the animal. And this is minor. I mean, there are even more major unsafe things done for photos. And though the person in that Jeep might have gotten a great photo, I think he got it at the cost of the animal's safety. So that's what I'm trying to say. Respect animals because their safety comes first. Your photo doesn't. And another thing is, don't just photograph wildlife for, the photos. Like, because there are a lot of brilliant moments in the wild. Uh, if it could be a tiger drinking water with its cubs. It could be a leopard mating. It could be a lot of things. A lot of things happen in the wild that are naturally beautiful. And to capture that, what you need to do is you need to understand how animals behave. So I always say that I'm a wildlife lover first, then a photographer, because I think that needs to be enforced a lot because a lot of today's wildlife photographers uh, don't know anything about wildlife, and I know our photographers who are not personally who have been into this for about 6 7 years and don't know anything about animals, and that's not to say it's a bad thing. They like photography more than wildlife. That's okay, but what I'm saying is you need to understand basic animal behavior because even if you do like photography more than wildlife, at the end of the day, it depends on your understanding of the animal. For instance, here's something a lot of people regard as my best shot. And because I know a lot about wildlife, I mean, I'd like to think I know a lot about wildlife. Uh, I could get this shot. It's not just the camera. So the story goes as such. We sighted Maya, the most famous tigress in India right now, and she ran into the bushes, and uh, I think about 2 minutes later we changed position, and she emerged out of the bushes chasing another tigress, and she went on to the main road, which is here, uh, the previous part of the main road, not this part, and she proceeded to chase the other tigress because so she was chasing the tigress for um, territorial reasons. She wanted to get her out of the territory. This is Maya, that's the tigress. So what she did was she chased her, and I knew what would happen next was a fight, of course, because eventually she would tire out and she would catch up. So I knew that would happen. So I readied myself, and I got the shot. And so did my friend and my father. We all got the shot because we know things about wildlife. If you don't know things about wildlife, you can't expect to get shots like this. And I think Vedansh will agree with me because um, I think 100% of the action shots he's gotten are because he knows so much about wildlife.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So
I
that's
can
a
try
really
finding
good.
a couple more examples. You can go ahead, Vedansh. You can. Yeah.
Yeah. So Myers made really, he made two really good points here. First of all is respecting the wildlife. When you're shooting animals, you have to keep a safe distance, give them space, let them act naturally. You're a wildlife photographer, supposed to take pictures of animals acting naturally in their habitat. You're not supposed to scare the animals, frighten the animals. When you're taking photographs, you should know the limit. Do not push the
Correct.
limit.
Very true.
So it is very saddening to see some some people who do push the limits, but um, from your side, you should try not pushing the limits. They're still wild animals, and you could still harm them. At the end of the day, you could harm them and put yourself to harm too. If you're, if you're getting too close to an elephant, you could be attacked. But at the end of the day, the elephant is going to go through a lot of stress, and
That's very true.
a lot of, they go through a lot of stuff. So that is something that is very sad. Um, for example, I had visited this place called Eraviculum National Park in Munnar, and in fact, I written an article on this too, which got published in Sanctuary Asia and Nation Focus. It's about the Nilgiri tars, which, really beautiful species, endangered, and such beautiful animals. However, when I did visit there, there was an ugly sight to it. A lot of people hounding the tower for pictures, which is very sad. I would like to show you a few pictures here. Here, look. People not giving the Nilgiri tower any space, which is really sad to see. I tried stopping them, and I did my best to keep, safe distance. For they too are animals, and they too get affected in ways they cannot handle that amount of stress, which is very sad. And I think I have another picture. Here, look, people doing all sorts of stuff for a shot, which is, do not push the limit. That's my point. My point is, do not push the limit, stay in your lane, do what you can to get good pictures. I'm not stopping you from getting good pictures, but my main point is, do not harm the animal anyway to get pictures. Do not stress the animal. It's all, let it go all naturally, for they are at the end of the day wild animals. And another point Mayas made was, being a wildlife lover, a naturalist first before a photographer, a really
Correct.
valid point. For example, a lot of people, fall in love with photography and then they fall in love with wildlife, and that is good too. But eventually, when you are a wildlife photographer, you do at one point of time have to know the animal's behavior and love wildlife. And for me, I fell in love in wildlife first, as I told, and photography came up a long time later, like around 7, 8 years later. And that's my point, a lot of things, and love for wildlife will come naturally. You spend time in field, you visiting national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. It comes naturally to you, and you cannot, there's nothing to force here, it just comes with the natural flow.
Mm.
And it helps a lot, knowing animal behavior. And for example, listening to alarm calls. If you want to track tigers or leopards, you listen to alarm calls. How you should know how the tigers, move around, what time of the day is the best for them,
Correct.
looking for pug marks and a lot of other signs, maybe if it's the tiger's mating season, then you could listen to their calls, their vocalizations. So that's something really important. So, knowing animal behavior has helped me get a lot of good pictures, have helped me get along a long way. So that is one thing. And, sometimes when you're seeing, when you spot a tiger or a leopard, if you can, if you have, if you have enough experience, you know what sort of a mood they are in. If, sometimes they may be in a lazy mood. Sometimes they may be in a mood to hunt, you can see that. So that is my main point. Knowing wildlife, knowing animal behavior will help you, yield better pictures. It'll be for
Correct.
your own good. I had spotted a pair of does, and they seem to be in a really playful mode. Uh, so as soon as I realized that, they are, playful, they are jumping around and stuff, I think I was ready to, expect some action, maybe, when dolls are really playful, they jump around, fight playfully. So let me show you a picture here. So this is a picture of dolls or Indian wild dogs fighting. And so this was a picture, I anticipated, I was ready with my camera. I was expecting for this to happen. So that is where, love for wildlife and, animal behavior, knowing animal behavior helped me, help me get this picture. So that is something I tell everyone, know how the animal reacts, know the animal behavior. It'll help you get a long way. So that
Correct.
is, so that was my point. So getting to the next point, when you're into wildlife photography and, do not keep doing your work. Do it for loving wildlife. Do it for loving, you do it because it is your passion. You do it for yourself. You do not take pictures for others. You do not edit your pictures for others. As I say,
Correct.
do what you like. Edit your pictures. If you like your picture, good. If you are satisfied with your own work, that is really good. You shouldn't think about what others think of a picture. If imagine you're giving a different type of feel to a picture, if you like it, that's good. Do not let others influence you. So that was my point. And you know you do wildlife photography for your own self. And do not look for the recognition that comes all later. Myas, maybe you could continue with that.
Oh, sure. I think something that's very important is you shouldn't chase awards and recognition, stepping into wildlife photography, thinking that you'll see success very, very soon. Just don't worry about that. The entire point of uh, being a wildlife photographer is that you enjoy it. I mean, you shouldn't be doing it out of you know uh, some sort of ambition to win an award or be recognized. And I'm not saying that's wrong. That's a very good goal. It's a very achievable dream. But it shouldn't be the only thing driving you. Your love and passion for wildlife should be what ultimately makes you pick up your camera and go to Kabini, go to Pandipur, go to the outskirts, hopefully, now that we've mentioned that. And I think if you just do your work, if you just continue loving wildlife and try uh, photographing everything you see, eventually awards and recognition will follow. I think Vedansh and I can tell you that from experience. And another thing is, a very important thing is that if you're a wildlife photographer, you should try and work towards conservation and spreading awareness through your photographs. A lot of people don't know this, but you can do that through your photographs. You can hold exhibitions, which Vedansh has done. I think, and he's even spoken at a summit. He's uh, spoken about environmental issues and how to battle them. And I think that's very important that you use wildlife photography. If it's a passion, a very strong passion of yours, it can also be used as a tool. You can use it to spread awareness, and that's something you should try to achieve. And yeah, I think if Vedansh has
Yeah.
anything to add
Yeah.
on to.
So yeah. So that was a good point. So we as young wildlife lovers and photographers, the future rests in our hand. Just because we're younger doesn't mean our voices are smaller. An equal, we have equal opportunities. We have great say in what to do. There are a lot of ways we can impact wildlife conservation. We can get into wildlife conservation. Youth can impact this field in a lot of ways. Don't be disappointed, guys. There are a lot of ways you can do it. It starts from the small daily things like saving electricity, walking to school. You may know about this a lot, but I will try to talk about other things, maybe hosting what do you say, exhibitions. I had hosted an exhibition where, as a fundraiser, where all the
Proceeds.
money for, yeah, all the proceeds went for the cause of conservation. Or, a lot of ways. Photography actually is a great tool for conservation. When you visit a forest and you take pictures, you post it on social media, you put it up on books, and maybe you write coffee table books, and a lot of people read it, and the message goes far. A lot of people fall in love with wildlife. You sensitize them towards the issue of conservation. So that is something really important. Photography can be a great tool for conservation. It can show, it can open people's eyes. You can give a different perspective towards wildlife. Maybe, and there are a lot of issues, a lot of conservation issues you can bring to other people's light, to other people's attention through your
Correct.
photography, through your work. You could post it on, you can put it up on newspapers, a lot of platforms for you to showcase your work, for you to sensitize people towards the job of conservation, and a lot of
Correct.
other ways. I have one of my friends, in fact, Akshay. He has been doing a lot of work for the vultures in Ramnagar. As you guys know, the population of vultures has been decreasing and decreasing, which was a really sad thing. And he did great work. Shout out to Akshay. He did great work. He made a documentary. He brought people's attention to the issue. Honestly, I didn't know this was such a huge problem. He around 2 3 years ago. However, he brought people's attention towards that issue, and he worked towards that. He showed it to the Karnataka Forest Department, to the government, and in a way, it helped the forest department set up a breeding center for the vultures, you know which is which is quite a great news for the vulture population that is dwindling, falling down. So it helped the karna it it helped in conservation of vultures. So guys, do not feel that you cannot do anything. Do not feel like our voices are smaller. We can impact conservation. We can get into conservation in a lot of ways. Photography, as I told itself, is a tool for conservation. Then you can try, what do you say, inculcating the habit of conserving resources in your daily life. You can hold fundraisers, you can make documentaries, you can do a lot of stuff. It's all about our voice, and it's about spreading our message to the world. The world must know. For a lot of people who are not informed, uh, so the point is, to educate people, to make them know about the wild, to spread the message. So that is my point. And to all the young photographers out there, all the wildlife lovers, all the naturalists, you can be a wildlife lover. You do not have to be a photographer too. You can, that's my point. You guys can note down the species you see. You guys can, impact. You guys can make an impact in a lot of ways. So to all the young wildlife lovers, photographers, conservationists out there, keep doing your work, follow your passion, you know, and do do stuff for what you love. Do work towards something you love. Everything else will come naturally. The recognition that will come naturally. All of that is secondary. You're not doing. You do not. Get into the. You do not try get into wildlife conservation
Thinking about all
and
that.
yeah, thinking
Correct.
about your own self. You think about the animals, you think about wildlife as whole. So to all the young wildlife lovers there, think about wildlife conservation, think about wildlife and society as a whole. Put yourself second, and everything else will come naturally. So that was my point. So
Yeah.
I think, Manas, do you have any other points if you want to add?
I think everything you said is 100% true. There is no argument to that. I think, and I've said what I had to say. I think nothing to add add on to this, except we will be taking questions now. I think now is it time for our question and answer session, Vedansh?
Let me
I,
go back all the way. Let's see the questions.
no, no, no. So I think let's give them some more time to
Okay.
send a couple of questions.
As
And
people are asking questions, I'll go back, I'll see the other questions. If there
yeah,
are any, I'll
no,
see.
no. Or I could share this one tip. So here's another advantage of studying wildlife behavior. So that's the species is green bee eater. That's a male, that's a female. So I was waiting for a couple of tigers near a watering hole, and I was getting really bored. I mean, I waited for 2 hours. So I noticed this one tree where this male bee eater would fly out. He would search for insects, and he wouldn't eat it. He would bring it back. He would feed it to her, and he would fly out again. And once I observed that, I realized I knew what I had to do to get the shot. So I prepped myself. I was ready, and I got the shot. So that just explains how. That's just again enforcing my point about knowing wildlife well and studying animal behavior. So do we
Good point.
start? Do we
Yeah,
start?
yeah, we can start. We can start answering. Let's
Sure.
see the
All
right
right.
questions.
All right. So our first question is, how do you photograph birds in flight? This is in the comments. So Uh,
Okay.
I think you just need to. It's quite tough as a beginner, actually. But what you have to do is you have to ensure you have a higher shutter speed. And again, animal behavior. You need to understand the flight patterns of the bird. So I think I'm just clearly this entire session is clearly proving you need to know animals very well, because otherwise it's tough. So that's what you need for clicking bird photographs. Then Vedansh, the second question is, it's not right. So tell me more about wildlife in Karnataka and the diversity in Western Ghats.
Okay,
Would you
so
like to
there is, yeah, yeah.
take
So I
this?
have a
Yeah,
lot to say here. Karnataka is one of the most blessed states in terms of wildlife in India. Karnataka is full of, different types of vegetation. We have evergreen forests. We have, uh, we have tropical deciduous forests. We have, a lot of stuff. We have grasslands. Karnataka is full of wildlife.
correct.
So a lot of you may know Karnataka has the usual tigers, leopards, wild dogs,
Yeah,
sloth bears, elephants. However, there's a lot to see. Western Ghats, in fact, is a beautiful place to explore, a really
very
unexplored
true.
place.
Yeah,
A lot of Western Ghats, there's some places which have lion-tailed macaques, a few places near Tirthalli, Agumbe. Then you have so
Valparai, of
many
course.
Valpara, yeah, that is Tamil Nadu though, but we
Yeah,
have lion-tailed macaques in Agumbe too,
correct,
which is
correct.
a lot of people
It's
don't know
true.
about. Then you have
That's true.
so so many species of birds. We have a lot of species of birds, few endemic to some areas. Then Western Ghats also a lot of species of frogs. We have snakes. We have the king cobra, a really beautiful snake. We have pit vipers. We have wine snakes. We have kraits. We have cobras. We have Russell's vipers. We have a lot of stuff in Karnataka. Then Karnataka is, full of grasslands too. Many of you won't know that for quite unexplored areas. And Karnataka has a decent population of wolves, of very, very rare animals. You have black bucks, and it's full of animals. You just have to explore, you have to explore
Correct,
places. Some places may seem dry in terms of predators, but it may be full of other things,
correct,
for example, if you, as a general tourist, not into macro photography, go to Kurg, like, oh no, there are no tigers, I don't see tigers. You have tigers in Kurg, but getting tigers and leopards would be harder. But
correct. The
if you go
frogs.
there with prior knowledge, frog activities booming there, it's like a heaven. So it's like heaven for frog lovers. And Myas, is anything you would like to add on?
I think everything you said is extremely accurate. I think there's nothing left to say unless we go about naming every place in Karnataka. Then
That
yeah,
would
you missed.
not, I don't think we can do
Yeah,
that. So many
not
places.
not in one live session. All right.
Yeah.
So the next
And
question
I'd like,
is,
yeah, yeah.
oh, would you
Go
like to
ahead.
go on?
I would like
Okay.
to add a little to the birds in flight. So of course,
Right.
Maya said high shutter speed. Then usually when the birds are in flight, if it's against the sky, you could overexpose. And
Correct.
mostly when I'm shooting birds in flight, it's hard to compose. So
Right.
that can be hard. So in such moments, I just keep the focus in the center, and I do not zoom in
Yeah,
fully. I want to give a little space because they're flying, right? So I do
correct.
not zoom in fully. I zoom in a little. Maybe if I'm shooting, if I have 100 to 400, I'll zoom in at 300. So there's some space. So I don't end up cutting a few parts of the bird. So
Correct.
that was it. And I think we have a few more questions, Myers.
Right. So I think the question's displayed right below the comments. How can teenagers like me contribute to conservation through photography? I think
Would
we
you like
covered
to?
this in the live session. I said your photographs themselves spread awareness and hold exhibitions, try speaking at summits. It's not possible for everyone. Everyone might not have speaking skills, or some might have stage fright, but you still can spread awareness through your photographs. And as for conservation, if you want to be an active conservationist, you might want to research a bit about it. You might want to, plant trees near deforested areas, and you might want to collaborate with the forest department of your state, of your respective state, and find out how you can help. And I think it's mainly through your photographs that you can do it. If you want to be a passive conservationist, but if you want to be an active conservationist, you're going to have to put in a lot of work. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we also covered a bit of this
Yeah.
topic in our live
So
video.
yeah.
So,
So we
right,
covered this topic. So the main point is, raising awareness, sensitizing people through your pictures. If you
right,
see some issues, you could, put up articles and stuff like that.
right,
And there's a lot of other ways getting directly into conservation. You can go speak to the Karnataka Forest Department. They would love
correct,
to have, there's forest department, some of them need, if you're into technology, a
correct,
few of them may need camera traps, or maybe, there are a lot of technology involved in tracking animals and in conservation. And one thing good about tourism is it may seem like, you're pestering animals of that sort, but one really good thing is, if the tourism zone is covering a good area,
yeah,
the poachers will be afraid to visit the areas,
correct,
because
very correct,
for they know there's daily human activity around there. It is not possible to cover, all of the forest, for the wildlife guards. So tourism zone does a good way. Tourism is a good way of conservation. It helps,
correct,
it can help you catch poachers. If there's snares set up, the tourists may see it. So that's my point.
correct.
And we have another question. How long have you guys been
Yeah, this is
shooting?
from our friend Sunanda. So I think we mentioned this at the very beginning. She might have missed it. So Vedansh has been photographing
For
wildlife for
5 years.
about 5 years, 5 years,
Yeah.
and I've been into it for about 3 years now. Yeah, so that's that. And let's go through a couple more questions.
We
Let me
have
just.
one in the comments. How many hours of coverage do you need to get a good shot?
It could
So,
it could vary. It could vary from 1 hour to about uh, 9 months. Since 1 hour, I mean, if you're trying to, it depends on the subject again,
yeah,
because 1 hour it could, if luck favors you, you might get it in an hour. But I think there was this Nat Geo expedition that one of my favorite photographers, Steve Winter, went on, the snow leopard expedition in North India, of course. And he took 9 months, and that might have been by choice because apparently he got his first snow leopard within the first week itself. But yeah, it honestly depends. It's a very
yeah.
broad question, so it depends
So,
on the subject,
yeah.
right?
So I'd like to
So,
add on a little.
oh, sure, sure,
Um, So, so it depends on your perspective of what is a good shot. There's nothing as a perfect shot. It's something
correct,
that you are satisfied with, and it depends on your luck. I've seen people, who just go there, who go to Kabini for a day. They get the black panther and they're like, oh, I got the black panther. I didn't get a leopard. They're complaining about it. I didn't get a tiger. I was like, oh, I've been visiting Kabini since like forever, but I haven't seen the black panther. So it's about a luck. Sometimes it may take a whole lifetime. I've seen people, who
correct.
have, some people go to shoot Malabar trogons in the Western Ghats, and they end up getting trogons on the way back near the bus stations or something
Yeah,
of that.
correct,
Happened to me too. I I had gone to photograph four-horned antelopes once, and I ended up getting them, in BRT Tiger Reserve. I'd gone to photograph four-horned antelopes, and all safaris done, everything, nothing, didn't get the four-horned antelope. On the way back, when I put my camera inside my bag, there was a four-horned antelope. I was like, oh God. And it just made a dash. It's about your luck. It could take
Correct.
forever. It could take a minute. It's just about how it plays out.
It's true. All right, so we have another question from Sunanda. What is the best way for a beginner to get into photography without getting overwhelmed by the fact that it will take
Take
time
time
to
to get
get
better.
better? So I think again we mentioned this. You just need to head into photography with the right attitude, and you should just love wildlife, I guess. And you should know that it takes time to get better. Don't get overwhelmed by that, since it will take time. I mean, that's natural. You can't just pick up the camera and be a France Lanting. That's not going to happen. So you will need time. There's no issues. You can take your time. Some take 6 months, some take 6 years. That's fine. It just, at the end of the day, you doing what you love matters. So I think
Yeah.
uh, next question. Do I move on?
I'll try to add on a little. So,
Sure, sure.
first thing, never be afraid of anything when you're stepping into it. Go out with a positive attitude.
Correct,
Do it for the love of it. If you love something, you won't be afraid.
correct,
And it won't. Honestly, it doesn't take a lot of time to learn photography. Um, you just have to be interested in it. Try learning, try expending all your energy into learning. It'll come naturally. You learn a lot in the field itself. I've learned so much in the field. Then you learn a lot at your home too, but you learn a lot in the field. So go out, experiment, try taking pictures with the camera. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about your camera when you try taking pictures, when you try experimenting, you go to the field, see how it is. So it doesn't, it depends on the person, but it's nothing to be afraid of. It's a beautiful thing. It's a lovely hobby. And you're not
correct.
preparing. It's not like you're preparing for an exam.
A test, yeah, correct.
There is no test here. There is no test. Each day, each and every day in the wild, it's not a test. It's about enjoying the time, soaking up the nature. It's about that. So that was my point. Yeah.
All right. So Hussein here is asking us what should be the shutter speed when you need to take a photograph of an animal in action. I think that was the first question we answered. It needs to be a high shutter speed, preferably 1/1000th of a second. It's fine even if it's 1/500. And we might be photographers, but we can't really help you because we need to see the scene, we need to see the subject, we need to see the lighting. So it's just it depends on you and your knowledge of photography, I guess. And he
Yeah.
has another question. How can I send photographs to Sanctuary Asia magazine? I think you can check out their
Mail them.
website and send them a mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a
So,
website, Sanctuary Asia. You can mail them. You can get to them.
yeah,
You can just check the website.
try
And
reaching out.
yeah, and about the shutter speed question, there is nothing as a perfect shutter speed.
Exactly.
You're
Exactly.
shooting in action, you may prefer a faster shutter speed, but
You
there is
may, yeah,
nothing as perfect shutter speed.
correct,
It depends on your shooting techniques too, how
correct,
stable you are. You must hold your breath while taking a picture. It'll help you
correct.
stay, remain stable.
And your
It
arm needs
also
to be
depends on the
close to your
animal.
chest. Yeah.
Yeah. Also depends on
And
the animals.
yeah, exactly. And even another thing I'd like to add is even if it's slow, it's fine. Try to get it in focus because if your shutter speed is slow and the animal is fast and you got a sharp shot, then you have yourself a panning shot. I mean, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. That'll look
Uh,
amazing. It might be a fluke, but still, it's a good shot. So I guess just look at the scene and decide.
yeah.
All right.
So
So
it's yeah.
so do I
Any more
move
questions?
on or anything
Yeah,
to add
yeah.
on?
Move on.
Okay.
No, no.
So, all right. So, Krishna Desai wants to ask us, can you talk about camera and gears? Which one is the best? So, I think both
Yeah.
of us can agree when I say this. There's no such thing as the best camera, but
Yeah.
there's no such thing as the best lens either. But we will tell you our gears. So, I'm currently using a Canon 1DX with an EF 300 millimeters, 300 millimeter ISUSM f2.8, and along with a 7D Mark II and a 7200. And Vedansh, you can tell them your gear.
So I've recently, a year ago, I bought a 5D Mark IV and 100 to 400. Before that, I used to use a 60D. So guys, do not be worried about your gear, you know.
Gear, correct,
Really common question I see, what gear do you guys use? What's the best camera? There's nothing of that sort. In fact, I started taking pictures with not with a DSLR. It was
correct,
the Sony camera, the bridge camera, I think. So
correct,
it's not about the gear. It's about how you utilize your gear. You have to make the best out
exactly,
of your camera. You
exactly,
know everything about your camera. Know everything about your camera. There's no point of having an expensive camera, an expensive lens when you cannot utilize it to the best. So there's
exactly,
nothing as a best camera. It depends all on your budget. If uh, so
correct,
so anything you can afford, any camera or lens you can afford, but preferably if you're going for wildlife photography, focal length above 200 millimeter would be preferred.
correct,
So you can rent it too. There's nothing of, you don't need to buy it. It depends on a person's, resources, how much he can afford. So there's nothing like a
correct,
best camera. It's just how you utilize it, how you use it. So first get to know
correct.
your camera, then think of upgrading.
All right. So do I go on with the next question?
Yeah, sure.
So Sunanda is once again very spontaneously asking us, what about your process of editing? What goes into it? So I think we both edit on Lightroom, Classic CC, and we have similar thought processes. That's why our editing of our photographs, uh, diff though different, have the same principles behind them, which is we edit, but we do not manipulate. We do not want to cross the line between editing and manipulating because we don't, while we would want to make a slightly dull photo vibrant, we wouldn't want to Photoshop a moon into it. So you get what I'm saying. And I think even Vedansh would agree with me. And if you'd want to add on, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, guys, about the editing and manipulating, it's about what satisfies you. There's nothing wrong in manipulating. It's
Correct.
all fine. It's all your wish. In fact, it's really good seeing good composites, beautiful pictures. It's really
Correct.
beautiful to see such work. And it just depends on what path you want to go. And if you want to go to digital art or if you want to go normal natural history photography, it depends on the path you choose. So your
Correct.
editing is all dependent on you guys. Editing is where
Very
all your
true.
creativity goes in. It all depends on you. I
Correct.
cannot teach a person how to edit. Editing cannot be taught. It is something that you
Comes
guys
naturally. Yeah.
do, yeah,
Correct.
comes naturally. And there are a few things
Exactly.
that can be you should keep in mind, like editing, straightening the picture, cropping it accordingly, then with the exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, all of that. But at the end of the day, it's your creativity, it's your picture.
Correct.
So what you do with it it's your own, it's your wish.
Wish. Correct.
So yeah, it's so if you're satisfied with your picture, nothing better than it. There may be millions of people not satisfied with that picture, millions of
True.
people complaining about it, but if you're satisfied with it, nothing better than it. And about manipulation, I love seeing good artistic effects, although I am not a lot into it. It's nice seeing it.
But you should
So it's
admit
a
it's a
really
composite.
yeah. So it's a really controversial thing. It doesn't win awards and all of that, but you do not edit pictures for winning awards. You edit pictures for your own thing, for your own
Satisfaction.
satisfaction. So if
Correct.
you're satisfied with such composites, it's really good. And
Correct.
however, you must inform the people that it's a composite.
Correct.
For
Exactly. And don't try and
the people
con
should
them.
know.
Yeah. Don't try
Yeah,
and con
the
them.
people should know the truth. The people should know the truth, and then it's all fine. So that is my
Exactly.
point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Any
So
other
do I move
question?
on to the, yeah. So we have a lot, I think about four more and then we can finish. So
Mhm.
I don't know why I was starting with the most recent ones. There was one about 56 minutes ago. How can we conserve wildlife in the current situation of COVID-19? So it's a great question. I think
Yeah.
that's a very valid question. I would say you can go out of your way to try and so if you notice any issues about the wildlife around you, you can try to start online petitions. Those are very effective, and in the times of in the current times, I think that's all you can do. And you can do a lot more. I mean, you can also try to you know like I said, right now I think photographs are the best way because they bring
Yeah.
awareness. And
So
they help. Right. So I think Vedansh can add on to this. He's
yeah.
an
So I'd
expert
like
at
to
this.
add on. Um, in such, hard times, it is not possible for us to go out, and stuff, not do field work. We cannot do field work. However,
Correct.
things are opening up slowly. The forest guards and officials are working tirelessly even through such situations. Um, they are working through everything. They are, they are not at home. They are away from their family in such, such a pandemic and such a situation, and that is really
Correct.
commendable. They work day in and out for the conservation and the betterment of the species and the wildlife. And one thing I would suggest for you guys is, to maybe donate some food, some
To the
clothes,
forest.
some
Yeah.
rations
Correct.
to the forest department, for the forest
They
guards who are
need it.
working
Correct.
tirelessly day and night. And it is not possible to do field work as of now in such situations. You can spread the word of conservation through your pictures, through
Correct.
your work. You can mobilize support for your cause. um,
Correct.
so you can even out of the worst situations, you can make out the best of things. It is it just depends on you. You have to think about it, try thinking about it. What can I do for the betterment of
Correct.
wildlife right now? And this COVID-19, this lockdown has brought out a lot of animals. They too have got a break from the humans. The air pollution level had gone down.
Correct.
So those are a few upsides. So those are the those that was my point. Yeah. Any
Correct.
other questions?
All right. So Harsha has a nice couple of questions. Could you please show
Mhm.
the captures for which you guys got awards or published? I think we have all the photos we've shown so far are some of our best. Not all of our best. We have a couple more. But yeah, those are a couple of our best stuff. That's a couple of that's a couple of our best photos. So he has another question. Does the Indian youth really care about nature and wildlife? So though it may seem like a majority of them don't, with recent incidents coming to light, like the pineapple cracker fed to the pregnant elephant and such incidents, it might seem so, but I'd like to believe otherwise. I'd like to believe that there are young people out there, such as myself and Vedansh and many more, who still love wildlife and still work to conserve it. So I think I'd like to disagree with you and instead say yes, that we are a minority as such, but I think we're working towards making ourselves a majority. So Vedansh, you can add on to it, sure. Just
Yeah.
go through the rest of
So,
it.
so in every field, there may be a lot of people who are not into, a lot of young children are not into conservation as such, but they haven't been educated about it as such. There are a lot of young children who are into wildlife conservation. Everything you have to try finding the positives among everything.
Correct,
And you go to villages, go to forests, see the tribal people. They're such sweet, humble people. They're
correct,
into conservation. For example, if you go to BR Hills, you have a tribe called the Sholegas, and they coexist with the animals inside the forest. The kids are, their culture. their culture teaches wildlife conservation to the children from a very young age. And so there are a lot of children, especially, more in the rural areas and near the forests, who are more sensitized towards wildlife conservation as such. In urban areas too, we have a lot of children. So you try to look at the positives of everything, and we may be minorities, as Maya said, but we too have
We're working towards it.
huge voices, and
Correct.
at the end of the day, we are stepping into what do you say, adulthood in 3-4 years, and we're the ones who have to carry on the voice and carry on the legacy and work towards the issue of conservation. Any other questions?
One last question from my elder sister. So, what are your future plans for wildlife conservation? I think Vedansh and I, at this point in time, it's quite uncertain. We haven't thought that far ahead. But currently, I think I can speak on behalf of both of us when I say we're just trying to spread awareness through our photographs and get people's attention and just ensure that people are aware of lesser known species, of endangered species. And in terms of future plans, I mean, I think Vedansh and I were planning on releasing a book together. It's not set in stone yet, but if we get enough material, I think it would be a plausible plan one day. So that's one of our plans. And hopefully, when we're slightly older, we can um, help out the forest department and uh, just strive to work towards a safe environment and a clean environment, and just you know, just basically conserve nature. And I think Vedansh might be clearer than I am because I'm clueless as to what
So
my future plans are.
So, as you guys may know, we're 16 and 11th grade, quite an uncertain time in our lives. A lot of people say go mainstream, do that, do this.
Correct.
How one of my dream goals has been to be an Indian Forest Service, be a forest officer. And I hope it works out as such. Let us see. But still, I do not look at the future in such a way. I
I live in
look
the
at the
present.
present.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Same.
in present, I see myself working towards conservation. Uh, Going out, doing some field work, and in fact, 2 years ago, I had taken part in wildlife conservation in the through tiger census, and had volunteered. And there are a lot of ways you can work towards conservation. Conservation doesn't always start at the field.
Correct.
It's not always about tigers and elephants. It can be small species too. It can be a small steps that can lead to conservation.
Exactly.
For example, snakes have been quite a, what do you say, misunderstood quite misunderstood animals
Very true.
uh, due to snake bites and deaths. So one project or one thing I would like to work towards is, in the future,
Conserving
is
them.
sensitizing people around villages. Snakes are usually found most
Correct.
in the fringes of forests and villages due to high amount of rats, and the habitat is perfect for them. So I want to, my main aim would be to sensitize people towards conservation of snakes. Snakes are really harmless if you maintain a good distance. They do not want to do
Correct.
anything. They have nothing to do with you. They just want to, be in their own path, and you to be in a different path.
Exactly.
However,
Exactly.
they are really misunderstood. Lack of education is one of the biggest reasons. So, I want to sensitize people near the fringes of the village, in the forest, educate the young children, tell them, give them torches, that's one of the main things.
True.
As
Exactly. Very true.
most of snake bites are during the night time when people are out without a torch, especially barefoot, and a lot of other stuff, try. arranging for some anti-venom near villages. Sad thing is we have anti-venom in urban areas more than the villages where it is
Correct.
needed more. So that is
Correct.
one thing. So there are a
So I
lot
think
of
that's
ways
a,
you can
yeah,
work towards conservation. It's about you work towards something you love and everything else comes naturally. Do
exactly.
we have any questions?
So that's a very good, I'd like to say that's a very good plan. And I mean, I haven't thought so far yet, but hopefully I can aid you or be of assistance in this plan. And I think that's it for questions. We have, I think we answered this. Yeah, we answered this, and we answered this one as well. Yeah. So I think that's it for questions. Uh, so I guess it's time to wrap up then. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, Vedansh, and I mean, I wouldn't mind doing it again because for me, it was just like a conversation with
Yeah,
a couple people watching. So
yeah,
I think this is where we part ways. I'll see you soon, uh, and goodbye.
yeah.
Thank you
It
all
has
for
been,
logging in, and we hope that we gave you some insight into wildlife today, and hopefully, even if at least one person, one young person, has taken away something from this live video, I guess we'd be grateful. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it has been a great session with Mayas, one of my really close friends, and it has been a really lovely time, interacting with people and spreading our knowledge, and
correct,
I hope you guys take away something from this, as Maya said, even if it has influenced someone, impacted even one kid into the field of wildlife, it would,
I think
mean a
we can say
great
we're
deal for,
successful. Correct,
yeah, it would mean a great deal for us. And it has been a lovely session interacting with people. And just one last message to all the youth and young people out there, and even the older ones, all of you who are into wildlife, who love wildlife, work towards your passion, do
correct,
something for it, give back. Nature gives so much to us. You try giving back to the nature, and
exactly.
I think that's all I have to say, and that's all I'll conclude with.
Yes, yes, I think I would say the same. And anything else, Vedansh?
That's
So,
all.
so I guess we're done. And I'm looking forward to seeing you, hopefully, on a trip soon, after all
Hope
this is
so.
over.
When all of it is over.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for logging on, Vedansh.
See you.
Thank you all for
See you, man.
viewing us, and we will see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.